look at your paperwork real quick?
Take your ticket if you want.
Okay. Thanks.
Glad you found the right spot.
Thank you. Thank you.
I bet you can. Where are you folks from?
Yeah, Wisconsin, right over the border.
Oh, welcome.
Up by Antioch. Thanks. Wherever you want to sit, you pick. Okay. Yep.
Bananas. I'll see if I can go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Ask if there's down below, probably.
Move my camera right here.
All right.
In the 18 and 1900s. The idea was, again, bring your goods in through these superhighways, the waterways, store them temporarily in the warehouses, and then load them onto trains and deliver them to destinations farther west. This is one of 4 warehouses that were here called the Pew Terminals, built between 1905 and 1920. Only one that's left. But it's no longer serving as a warehouse. It is now commercial, retail, and residential, a concept that we call adaptive reuse, or from warehouse to your house. So we're going to go in, then up, then in, then up. The idea that would allow more light and air down to the sidewalk. Same thing's happening in New York at this time. Their buildings tend to look like wedding cakes. Ours tend to look like armchairs for giants. And we'll see 2 of them along the river today. So that's Art Deco, 1920s, 30s, and 40s. Once you build an apartment or a condo or 2, you now have a neighborhood. So as we come under the bridge, to your right is Streeterville, to your left is what's called the New East Side. Going under one of our double-decker bridges, we have 4 of them. This one carries traffic on both levels. 2 of them carry the elevated train, the CTA elevated train, or the L on the very top. Skyscrapers planned here. When it's done, it will have gone from 0 residential units to 10,000. There are 49 skyscrapers being built in Chicago right now. Most of them are residential. Now let's start talking about some of our buildings. Up ahead on your left, I want to start talking about that construction site, because when that is finished, that will be the tallest building in the world, designed by a woman who owns her own architecture firm. Let's hear it, ladies. Not bad. You could have done better, but that's not bad. It's Jeannie Gang. She's a homegrown gal from Belvedere, Illinois. She now has her practice here in Chicago. It's called Studio Gang. She's got a great website, and oh my gosh, does she have interesting designs. This is Gang, and this is an example of the digital expressionism. Every single balcony is different, so you can imagine how difficult that would be to draw by hand. Her inspiration with limestone outcroppings that you find along the rivers, and the glass looks like water that is etched or eroded. Of the postmodern architecture. So in this case, what do the postmodernists do? Look at old architectural styles and update them. In this case, they went back to the Art Deco period of the 20s, 30s, and 40s. What does Art Deco have? Vertical lines, emphasizing the height of the building, and setbacks. So as we come under the bridge and up. And while this is technically a postmodern building because of when it was built, we often refer to this as Echo Deco architecture, because it is echoing Art Deco architecture. Now we're coming up on Michigan Avenue. This is my favorite intersection in the entire city of Chicago because there's so much history there. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Let's do some buildings and let's get some neck exercises going. American flag on the top. It is the Tribune building. It was built in the 1920s as an international competition to build the most beautiful office building in the world. They had more than 200 applications from 20 different countries. Howells and Hood were the architects that won the competition. Not a box. It's a curvilinear building, so postmodern. And then these setbacks, those are contextual. They take into account their site and surroundings. They reference the height of 3 buildings in the neighborhood, so contextual. Trump International Hotel and Tower, hotel and condominiums. 3-level Riverwalk with the bottom 2 floors are unrented retail space. For the Marina City. Goldberg was actually a student of Mies, but apparently he missed the class on right angles. He said there were no right angles in nature, should be none in architecture. He built what he called a city within a city. When these opened, there were not only apartments and a marina, there was an ice skating rink, a bowling alley, a swimming pool, a movie theater, shops, restaurants, bank, TV and radio programs that broadcast from here. He called these his floors out in between, putting on top on the bottom. And what have you got? A Greek temple. Well done, Greek temple. So he's reached back thousands of years for his inspiration, taking a Greek temple and stretching it over some 50 stories. This is the home of R.R. Donnelley, one of the largest printing and publishing companies. They used to print the phone books. Who remembers phone books? Same people that remember the punch cards, exactly. Of traffic court. Not that I was ever there, of course. I have no personal experience whatsoever. So as we get by the next bridge, the skyscraper here, this is a LEED certified building. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's an effort to get the developers to want to build green buildings and reduce their carbon footprint. There are 4 levels: bronze, silver, gold, platinum. This is a platinum level building. It's the highest level that there can be. It's by Picard and Chilton, and we're very proud of this on the river. But wait, there's more. Chicago has more LEED certified buildings than any other city in the country, and more square footage of green roofs than any other city. Just beyond it, we see a red brick coffee warehouse, now a graduate school for psychology. Beyond the bridge, on our right, this huge building built in 1928 retailer to consolidate his warehouses. He built this for $16 million. When it was finished, it was the largest office building in the world until the Pentagon was built in Virginia. But 1928, not a good time for retailers. They were coming into the Depression. He held on to it to the 1940s when he sold it to Joseph P. Kennedy, the father of our president, for the bargain basement price of $13 million. Kennedy's held on. There was a bar on all 3 banks and a ferry that went between the 3 so that you could bar hop. But to your right, this is Wolf Point. The building on the far end is Wolf Point West, a residential building, silver LEED certified. When it was finished just a few years ago, it had this beautiful view down the river. That is until Wolf Point East gets built. So you're going to see this is a very common theme here on the river. Reflects us rather than the view down the river. Picard and Chilton are the architects. It's just opened up last year, and it is a gold LEED certified building. Just beyond it, another office building beyond the bridge, you'll see it has a very narrow base and it flares out. That is, again, opened up just last year, but it looks like a very unstable building. In fact, when they did wind tunnel testing on the computers before construction started, they discovered this building was just going to rock back and forth. So they called in the engineers, they put water tanks on the top of the building. They hold 250,000 gallons of water, and that dampens any movement of the building. The building goes right, the water goes left, and so forth. Once again, we'll see ourselves reflected in the building here. Getchin Associates are the architects. Again, this opened up in 2017. By the way, this is a beautiful lobby to go into. If you guys are not going into our lobbies, you are missing so much of the beauty of old buildings, new buildings. Not everyone is great, but a lot of them are. And this one, if you're over in this neighborhood, this is 150 North Riverside Plaza. This is worth going into. Double level Riverwalk here with a restaurant on the top and on the bottom. Now I mentioned Getchin Associates are the architects. They're also the architects. The tall tower in the middle, and then resting your arms on either side. It's often referred to as Insel's throne. The first opera was started right here just 9 days after the stock market crashed, but that did not stop them. There's been an opera company in this building ever since, except for 4 years following World War II. They do a great behind-the-scenes tour, by the way, if you're interested. Now on our right, all the buildings that we're passing, these are all built over railroad tracks. The railroad said, we not only own the land, but we own the space above it, and we'll sell you the space if you can figure out how to build a building. So the next 4 buildings beyond the next bridge are all the roof. There's no internal support. They needed unobstructed viewing on the trading floors. Fazlur Khan, an engineer from Bangladesh, is the one that invented that X-bracing. It was first seen on the first megastructure ever built, the John Hancock building on North Michigan Avenue. Now beyond the bridge, another is Gateway 4, another postmodern building, and it is contextual. It has green glass, the color of the river. It has a swoop in the front of the building. That is following a little change that's in the river here. And it's reflective glass, so it's reflecting its neighbor. And as we come under the bridge, take a look to your left, because this is a building we never used to talk about. It used to be just a piece of concrete. It was a building that had turned its back on the river. Nobody wanted to live or work on the river back in the 1980s or 90s. But now can you see what's on the wall? It's a map of the river. What's the river? It was our post office for about 70 years, and then we built a new post office, and this has sat empty for a couple of decades. They're finally restoring it. It's going to be gorgeous when it's done. Beautiful Art Deco detailing. And that is proposed to Amazon for their second headquarters. One of 7 sites in Chicago, 2.5 million square feet. But this next bridge, you'll see the street goes right through the middle of the building. That was part of the plan for the city of Chicago by Daniel Burnham, 1909. He drew up what he called Paris. The Riverwalk will pick up here, so again, you'll walk down from the bridge here, walk along the river, go around the next building that's there, and then phase 2 is on the south end of that next building. And that became the battle cry of Chicagoans. When the newspapers were finally printed, the headline said, "Chicago shall rise again." And we built a second city on the ashes, which is where we get our nickname, the Second City. Not wide. Now, what kind of a building do you want windows that are only 4 inches wide? You say jail, well, we say Metropolitan Correctional Facility. Let's talk about the building in front of the Sears Tower. That is was built by Cole Pedersen of Fox, and when it was finished, it had 8,000 fluorescent lights illuminating the crown. But the light and the heat and the light was confusing the migrating birds, so they removed a lot of those lights. It's still very prominent in our skyline, which the best place to see our skyline is out at the museum campus, and I'll tell you how to get out there. Please go out during the day and at night. You will smells, and they pump that cold water into 150 buildings around downtown for their cooling plant. The idea is I don't have to take up space in my building for the air conditioning unit. It's right here. It's called N-Wave. Now back to the Sears Tower. That's a very tall building with a lot of wind, so you either build a building like a redwood tree, say, that could stand up against most winds, or you build a building like a palm tree that sways in the wind. Sears Tower, palm tree. It sways 18 inches in all directions. So you literally walk off the side of the building and look down 1,451 feet. As you look up, you'll see the Sears Tower and the ledge up at the top. You're looking at the soles of people's feet. Construction. And by the way, just to give you an idea, I just walked by this building yesterday, and last night, and in this north tower in the lobby, that Wells Fargo is one of their tenants, they have an old Wells Fargo stagecoach in the lobby. So that's an example of things that are in the lobbies that you're plaza, green space, and a fountain, unheard of, and also to face the river. This was built to look like a sphinx. Now, why a sphinx in Chicago? Well, King Tut's tomb had been discovered in the 20s, and Egyptian icons influence architecture, or all the arts, including architecture. And so the big part was supposed to be the body. The two parts coming out to the river with the clocks, those were the paws. The head was never built. Now, I mentioned on the south side of the south branch of the river. That is until Wolf Point South gets built. Remember Wolf Point to the west is Wolf Point West? They're losing their view to Wolf Point East. They're building a third building in between those two. It's going to be called Wolf Point South, and that will block the view of the building and the hotel. Now we're passing again. This is Harry Weiss's River Cottages, 1988. Now these guys were real pioneers to live this close to the water in 1988. It was considered toxic. They bought raw space. The cheapest was $350,000 back in 1988. They have been owned by 1,000 members. Two of them are Oprah Winfrey and President Obama. Another building that had turned its back on the river. It used to have no windows, but they have seen the error of their way now that the river is much cleaner. They've cut in these windows and embraced the river walk with this landscaping and come down here and rent. 1800s. This was originally Office Documents company. They are still in business more than 100 years. See the vertical lines? And then the terracotta detailing, very typical of Art Deco architecture. By the way, I forgot to mention, we are giving away a bridge. It is yours for free. You can take it home with you today if you can put it in your carry-on luggage. It's the bridge right ahead of us. So if anybody wants it, we have screwdrivers and wrenches on board. If anybody's filled your order. It spans almost 2 city blocks. And in fact, it was so big the employees wore roller skates to get from one end of the building to the other. Top half of the building, very prairie style. You see the long horizontal lines in the red brick that span the entire length of the building, again, horizontal. And then below, that's much more Art Deco. So this is a bit of a hybrid building, not uncommon. There's lots of buildings that don't fit into one category or city in the history of mankind. We started with just a few residents at the beginning of the century, wound up with almost 3 million people at the end of, almost 2 million people at the end of the century. We had another million last century, so that's where our population is today, just under 3 million.